things that I'd like to go over with you. So joining us today, thank you for joining us today for the Voice of Diversity panel. Today's program is sponsored by Alumni Engagement, Multicultural Life, Diversity, and Institutional Equity and Inclusion offices. If everyone just could take a moment to put in the chat whether you're a student, faculty, staff, or alumni, and Juan would like to know class years and where you're located, that would be fabulous. We'd like to see who's joining us. During the program, we also ask that you keep your mics muted. And if you do have any questions, please feel free to put your questions in the chat. We'll try to get to them throughout the session. There will also be time at the end of the session to ask any questions as well. I'd also like to share our statement from the Alumni Association. The Cortland College Alumni Association takes pride in creating among our Cortland family an inclusive environment for alumni, students, faculty, staff, and all other campus community members. Any demonstration of bias, racism, derogatory remarks, or any other actions that individually or systematically harm others have no place in our university community and is not tolerated. By attending or participating in this event, you acknowledge that you will act in a respectful manner. Failure to adhere to the statement will not be tolerated, and you may be asked to leave the event. Together, we can work to build an inclusive and welcoming environment for all. I would also like you to know that President Britterbaum says hello to everyone, and he is so sorry that he is unable to attend today's program. Now I'd like to introduce my co-hosts today, Lima Stafford, Assistant Director of Multicultural Life and Diversity, and Anna Maria Cerncioni, Director of Multicultural Life and Diversity. And then Lorraine just introduced herself, and Lorraine will also be joining us today. So thank you to all of our hosts, and Lima and Anna Maria, I'm turning it over to you.
Yes, thank you all for joining. It's nice seeing some faces that I'm familiar with and seeing faces I have not met yet. I see the Cortland Pride, which is great. I'm also a SUNY Cortland alum, class of 2012 from the Physical Education Program. I currently work as the Assistant Director for Multicultural Life and Diversity here at Cortland. I'll have Anna Maria introduce herself really quick. Oh, and just to share a little background about me, I'm from Grenada in the Caribbean and moved to Brooklyn, New York, and now I live in Cortland. So 12 years later, wouldn't think I would be living here, to be honest. Anna Maria will share a little bit about herself, and then Lorraine really quick, and then we'll get into the panelists introducing themselves.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Anna Maria Cerncioni. I'm the director of the Multicultural Life and Diversity Office here at SUNY Cortland. I've been here since 2015. I can't say I'm alum, although sometimes I get a little jealous of how much pride everyone has being a Cortland alum. I felt like the pride at Utica College, where I did my undergrad, was not that strong, but don't tell my alma mater that. So I am, well, my cultural background is I'm Ecuadorian Italian. I grew up in Queens, New York, and then moved to the central New York area when I was in middle school. So for those of you who may be familiar with like the Utica area, that's where I grew up from middle school on. I went to Syracuse University for my master's degree. So I've been in Syracuse now since 2013, and that's where I still reside. I'm really excited to do this panel with you all. I hope you enjoy it, and we have some great panelists to introduce you all to that are going to share with us today.
Lorraine?
Hi, so Lorraine Lopez-Piano, and I'm the Chief Diversity Officer here on campus. I've only been on campus with Cortland for about 6 months, and I'm really excited. I've been working with the Alumni Association on several initiatives and really happy to do that. Also, like Anna Maria, I'm very jealous of all the pride, the Cortland Pride, but thank you for welcoming me and allowing me to be part of this. Talk about my background. So I'm Puerto Rican, also from the Bronx, like Seth. Was born and raised in the Bronx, spent some years in Puerto Rico, came back, and then ended up moving when I got married and had children to upstate New York. And I've been here for, you know, more than 20 years. So again, welcome. And I'm really excited to hear what the panelists have to share with us today.
Sweet. Thank you, Lorraine. So joining us today, I would like to share the panelists. For the panelists, you're going to be sharing with us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, how you made it to Cortland, and then please name any identities that you feel comfortable sharing or naming to the audience. So whether it's religion, sexual orientation, any identities in general. So first I have Nicole that will be starting the introduction.
Of course you have me going first. So like Lima said, my name is Nicole Basile. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I graduated from Cortland in 2019, so I'm the youngest and the most recent graduate on the panel. My identities kind of fall around more being a part of like the LGBTQ community. I identify as either, bisexual or pansexual. It kind of depends on who I'm talking to and like their understanding of the community, and kind of just how I feel like talking. That honestly, they kind of are pretty interchangeable for me. And then it says here too to talk about how I decided to come to Cortland. So coming to Cortland was actually a really boring decision for me. I was between Cortland and another school, and I really fell in love with the education program and the different opportunities I could have within that one program. And I actually ended up finishing my teaching degree there, and I'm a teacher now in severe autistic classroom. So I have 4 students. I'm actually on my lunch break right now. So that's a little bit about me.
Thank you, Nicole. Next I have Mike Guidi.
Thank you very much, Lima. Hello, everyone. My name is Mike Guidi. I am class of 2017. So yeah, that makes me on the younger side here. Nice to see everybody. Class 2017, I was a mathematics major at SUNY Cortland. My story for coming to Cortland was interesting. So I was looking for schools, and I was mostly looking to stay in the New York region. So I was looking at a lot of SUNYs. I was also looking at Syracuse and another school, I forget. Another school, but it doesn't matter. So my high school principal at the time, Dr. Yusuf Muhammad, who was also a Cortland alumni, he sat me down and he spoke to me. He gave me a pamphlet of the school called Cortland, and I'm like, what is a Cortland? And so he's like, look at it. It has a good math program. You're great at math. I think you would really enjoy being at this school. So I looked at it, and I applied. Funny enough, I applied to there and I got accepted, but I never ever took a tour of Cortland. I never came here, never spoke to anybody. I just, took a chance. I got accepted to a few other schools, but something about Cortland, I don't know. I just closed my eyes and just jumped, and I was like, you know what, this school looks good. I hope I haven't been there, but I hope that it satisfies me. But I have no regrets. I was in Cortland. I was the president of BSU. I was also a member of several other voice office clubs, CSA. I was a member of Women of Color as well. My identities are he, him, his. I forgot to mention that. He, him, his. And yeah, I'm just excited to be here. Is that all? I think that was it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. I got Carlos Malavet next.
You can hear me? I know it's lagging a little bit, so I'm gonna give it like a second or two so everybody can see me on the screen well. Good. All right. So my name is Carlos J Malavet. I am alumni year 2011. I came to the school. The way I was introduced to the school, I was recruited as a basketball recruit when I was a sophomore in high school. I heard about the school, heard great things about the school, but then I ended up not going to SUNY Cortland. Initially, my freshman year, I spent at Concordia College, Division II basketball. And then I ended up transferring in my sophomore year of college. So once I got in, the decision came, I wanted to have a big school experience. The school that I went was a private school, Concordia, that is, and it was a very small school. Everybody knew each other, and I just wanted like a grander experience. I wanted to get out of where I was. Initially, I was born and raised in New York, and in the city, I was living in Brooklyn, and then the school was in Bronxville, so it was like a couple minutes away from where I was living. So I decided to go to Cortland, where I was able to work, I would say, on my universal appearance. I played 1 year on a basketball team, and then I took it upon myself to challenge myself and get out my comfort zone. So what I did was got super involved. I became the first multicultural life intern for the campus, keynote speaker for the campus and the multicultural life office, vice president of Caribbean Student Association with Lima as well, part of Move, and I was there when Juan was there as well when he was building up the Move program. So I got super involved with the school, and then it led to my career in speaking and education. So I got my degree in physical education as well, but I got into education right after I graduated, started teaching all over New York, and now I'm in Texas. And I started my consulting company in restorative practices, and now I speak across the country, and I do speaking engagements and consulting with schools about developing restorative practices within schools. That all started at SUNY Cortland with my work in the Multicultural Life Office and the conferences that I helped create and was a part of while I was there.
Thank you, Carlos. Seth Meisler next.
Hello, I'm Seth Meisler. I'm the class of 76. That's 1976, not 1876. I tell that joke a lot. I am from the Bronx, and I came to Cortland when I was 16. I didn't do a lot of due diligence of picking a college. I had a state scholarship, so I knew I wanted to go to a state school. I was captain of my high school tennis team, and the captain the year before said, "Hey, you should go to Cortland." So I did. I never saw him again, but there you go. I was there for 4 years. Second 2 years, I was an RA. I identify, I guess, as a gay man. I have since actually pretty much after I graduated from Cortland. When I was at Cortland, it was not a very diverse place. If there was an openly gay person there, I did not know that person. After Cortland, I moved to Boston, and I decided to become an architect. Became an architect, practiced in Cambridge, and then moved to San Francisco in 1988 with my partner, who I met in 1979. I retired a couple years ago, and I'm sort of unretired, working part-time for a couple of firms. And I'm on the board of a local arts organization, which is a real thrill. That's me.
Thank you, Seth. And last we have Juan Milan.
Make sure I unmute myself. Didn't know that was happening. Right. So who am I? All right. Lima, I like to go deeper into these things. So I feel like the most important thing when I speak in terms of who I am is a man of integrity, love, healing, about healing, growth, and vitality. Any one of my other titles that goes beyond that, it's a vehicle through which that shines through. So there's coaching, there's, father, there's son, there's all these other different things, but that's my core that I really want people to understand. That's what I'm about. Integrity, growth, healing, vitality, community. And that's me in a nutshell, in a core. So then my journey to Cortland, I wish it was more profound. It's not. I was looking at a couple schools, and I visited like New Pulse, and it didn't vibe with me. There were a couple of different schools I applied to, and really didn't really know much about the process. And really, I was just like, "Oh, Cortland." I was like, "Okay, I think I'll go there." Something about Cortland called to me. Like Mike said something along those lines, but something about Cortland called to me. I didn't visit it. It was just really like, "Here, I'm going here," and yeah, that was it. But coming to Cortland, it really is a profound point in my world, because playing a 4-year basketball player here in the varsity, on the varsity team, became a captain of the varsity team my senior year, and also helped grow and build Move. So I was involved with Move for about three of the 4 years. involved in the Voice Office, LFL, BSU, president of Move, my senior year, and was really involved in not just, you know, my identity in terms of basketball and an athlete, but also on the other side of things when it comes to that community and the relationships and really that social aspect of things, and grew from there. And how I identify is he, him, hers. I mean, he, him, hers. That doesn't make sense. He, him, his. Yeah, that's my journey to Cortland and who I am. Heritage, Dominican, right? And born in Washington Heights, where basically almost every other Dominican is born outside of the Dominican Republic, and moved upstate recently.
Thank you, Juan. So next we're going to dive into some more questions for the panelists. Anna Maria and I is going to take turns asking you questions. Anna Maria will ask the first one. For the panelists, you don't have to answer all the questions. Just answer the ones that you feel like, you know, pertains more to you and you would like to answer. Anna Maria, take it away.
Thank you, Lima. Okay, so the first question, and I'll also put it in the chat as well, is what was your experience like attending Cortland? And please describe any historical context that would be important for the audience to know in regards to your experience.
I'll go first with that one. So my experience when I got there, I know Seth said when he was there, it wasn't very diverse. I felt the same way when I got to Cortland in 2008. And that just says a lot when it came to just seeing a lot of people that came from where I came from, and what I like my certain experiences. So when I and decided to work on my universal appearance, like I made a decision to be like, okay, I need to know how to communicate with people that come from different worlds, different experiences. So I took it upon myself to sit in the cafeteria or when the diner, to like sit with different people every time I sat down and introduce myself and spark up conversation and ask like, hey, why do you think like that? Or how do you feel about this? Right. And really spark up conversation and I built that reputation of just being that person that was always curious and always asking questions on campus, and building rapport and relationships with people. So me making the decision, which I was around a lot of friends. I developed friends that came from similar situations, which was a few of us. They decided they couldn't do it and they ended up leaving. So I've seen a lot of people leave that started out with me, and because they just felt like it wasn't a place for them, they didn't feel comfortable. And I just remember getting there and making that decision from the beginning, like I'm going to push myself to get out of my comfort zone and learn how to communicate with people that don't have similar experiences and not let that hold me back, so I can help myself in the future when I leave Cortland, because I never saw myself living in one place forever. So, and now I'm living in Texas 10 years later, so it kind of worked out for myself.
I'll jump in because I actually had quite different experiences from Carlos and Seth. I don't know anyone who wasn't in there. I said I was from Long Island, and I grew up in a predominantly, and by predominantly I mean 95% white town. My town is pretty wealthy. The southern part of my town is on the water, so a lot of wealthy property, wealthy people down there, and I kind of grew up in a bubble. People were either in my town or either Jewish or Catholic, middle to upper class, and white. So I grew up in a bubble. So coming to Cortland was like giving me that really diverse experience because I didn't have that growing up. I didn't know anything but what was going on right outside of my house. So I like to say that I came to Cortland a very like ignorant and naive 18-year-old who didn't know anything that was going on around them. So that really impacted my experience at Cortland because that's just not who I am now. And everything had changed for me. And it even showed me who I was that I didn't even know, or gave me the tools to acknowledge different characteristics and different traits that I had that I never even knew existed, or even different like passions that I have. So it's really interesting to see like where I started versus where I've gone. I actually can like pinpoint to where most of my changes happened in Cortland. I took a women's studies class for one of my GEs, and back then the Pride Club was called Spectrum. So Spectrum had come and did a panel for my class. And after the panel, I went to my first club meeting and joined the rugby team, and then started getting involved in like various voice office clubs, getting involved with student government, becoming on e-boards, joining and becoming an e-board member of student government, working on the diversity conference, becoming the director of diversity, equity, inclusion, working closely with, James Felton, who was then the chief diversity officer. So it was a really big flipped switch for me, because I had grown up in the bubble with minimal diversity to then coming to a place where there was so much diversity that I had no choice but to change, which for the better, obviously.
I can also add on. So coming into Cortland in 2013, I remember reading that Cortland was 4% non-white. So that was a mixture of Black, Hispanic, Asian, etc. And once again, I had never seen Cortland. So my first time coming to Cortland was, the day before or 2 days before the first day of classes. And so me growing up in Brooklyn, New York, I went to all Black elementary school, all Black middle school, all Black high school. All of my teachers were Black. Everything that I knew was around, Black culture. So when I first came to Cortland, it was a complete and utter culture shock. I was like, whoa, where am I? And so, just when the Greyhound, when pulling into Cortland, I was like, this is definitely not Brooklyn. I didn't see a barbershop in sight. I didn't even see a Popeyes. I'm sorry, but but it was, I didn't let it like, I didn't let it make me uncomfortable. Mostly because I had no choice. Most of the people in my dorm were white. There was a few, Black people. When we became close, we had our close knit group, but for the most part, everybody was, was just white. And so, for me, I'm a social butterfly, so I didn't necessarily let it like hinder me. I was always out in people's rooms, with consent, and speaking to people and just getting to know them, being friends. I like to make myself comfortable wherever I am, and so let's see if there are any historical context. My experience in Cortland, pretty much just, I've heard about like racism and I heard about, discrimination, but being in Cortland, unfortunately, I got to witness that, like, either firsthand or secondhand. I remember the night after Trump passed away. I mean, not passed away. I'm so sorry. After he got elected, a group of people rolled by in a car and screamed, "This is Trump's country now," and uttered a racial slur to me. So that's firsthand, and also like secondhand. Like I know people who were affected by racism, and some people who didn't necessarily take it too kindly. People who, when they faced it, they were like extremely uncomfortable to the point where they didn't even want to be in Cortland anymore. So coming to Cortland, it helped me realize that the world is not just one. The world's not just Black, and two, the world's not going to like you. And sometimes the world won't like you just because of the color of your skin or your appearance or how you look or what you identify as. And I was able to grow and learn that very quickly, in Cortland. So, it's not something that you want to happen to you, but it's something that I'm thankful for because, now with the help of, MODO and the help that they were able to give me, I'm able to go and to educate people who, may have never experienced that and teach them, ways to deal with it or give them an outlet or put them in the right direction, point them in the right direction to find out ways to try to deal with what they need feeling because, dealing with that type of stuff, it causes a lot of mental trauma. And sometimes a lot of people don't have that, have an outlet to, release themselves or vent or, just feel comfortable surrounded by people who share the same experiences. So I was able to learn that in Cortland.
Yeah,
I
just so
just wanted to, oh,
go ahead, Anna.
sorry, I just add Mike too, like, and I was lucky enough to go to be working here when Mike was a student. I think he doesn't give himself enough credit because he also was president of the BSU and helped lead town halls to not only, support students individually, but create awareness across campus that led to some changes and, let the cabinet know as well what students were experiencing. So we thank you for that, Mike.
I actually don't know if I've ever had a conversation with Mike, but me and Mike both went to school at the same time, and I knew exactly who he was from his name. He's definitely not giving himself enough credit. Mike was very involved and did a lot of things. He was a big driving force in a lot of different things that have been happening on campus recently in the past.
Can the camera show me turning red? I'm blushing over here. Yes. No, but thank you. I appreciate it.
That's great work. For me, it's much like Mike and Carlos's experience, where it was definitely a culture shock, and knowing from my environment, coming from my environment, not too many people venture out. And one of the biggest things that we know is it's not your level of success is not related to like your IQ, right? We can talk about emotional IQ, like EQ, but one of the things is your zip code. Your zip code really boxes you in, especially in such like the environments that I'm coming from, and in similar environments like that. So it was definitely a culture shock in a good way to step out, and it gave me an opportunity to really discover who I am and what I wanted to do in a different way, where you're around different people, even whether it's black, white, brown, whatever it might be, but for a common, more of a common mindset, right? Where you're trying to up level and you're discovering different things about yourself. So my experience in Cortland was very powerful because my identity was an athlete, a basketball player, right? And I remember that time where I remember when I was on the bus and it was like, I don't want that to be my identity, right? I was like, the world doesn't need another basketball player, no disrespect to all the athletes, but I just felt like there was something more for me to do. And what I learned, this is very subtle, but so important too. What I learned in Cortland is that you can look at someone, you can see someone when you're walking down the street, right? Where I'm from, that's not really something that you do, right? You don't kind of like look at someone walking down the street or just like make that eye contact. And that was a big lesson for me. And when I go back home, it was like, hey, you can acknowledge somebody without that kind of thing in the back, like, hey, is it gonna be like a standoffish kind of thing, So just like those little kind of 1 degree differences were huge in stepping out, and like Carlos said, being uncomfortable in a different kind of realm, with that.
When I left Cortland, looking back, I realized not only was it not diverse when I was there, it was pretty hostile if you were different. And there were very, very few African American students. And I think they were treated not so well by other students who really were so unused to being around diversity. And I worried about Cortland because Cortland, when I was there, seemed like it was behind the times. It was, it was sort of a 10-year lag. And I worried that Cortland was still 10 years behind the time. The other places were more progressive and more diverse. And it was great going back after, I went back 2 years ago and I attended the queer support group. And it was great to see that Cortland has really, really, really come a long way. I don't think I was there long enough to see if it's come far enough. It was, and I'm really, really curious, if somebody was thinking about going to Cortland, would they say, I don't know. Its reputation is not so good. I would feel out of place. And I think if you're gay, you really want critical mass. You know, you want people to date. And if folks say, gee, I'm not going to go there because I won't feel welcome, then I worry about Cortland. And I'd be curious what the college is doing to make sure that people are comfortable checking in, not with just a few people, but checking in with a lot of people. How are we doing? Are you comfortable here? Can we do more?
Thank you to all the panelists. And I think, Seth, you bring up a really good question too. And I will say, like, I'm not about sugarcoating. There's always more work to be done. And I have not been at Cortland, you know, long enough to see all the progress that's made, only for 5.5 years. But we do have sessions sometimes where we discuss some of it. And I know you were able to also come to our diversity conference, which was great. But, you know, if anybody has questions about that, I know Lorraine and I would be more than willing, or even Lima, to talk about some of the initiatives we have, but we're also open to always hearing feedback about what, in addition to that, we should be looking at.
All right, so I'll open it up for the next question. Who were some influential people that empowered you during your time at Cortland?
I'll go first. So first, I definitely want to say Bitterbomb. I always respected Bitterbomb, and just the passion and dedication that he showed in you know, letting all of the students know that he was there for us, and he was really one of those presidents that not just, you know, said that he was, you know, he was willing to help. He showed it. He was at every event. I think I saw his calendar once, and I'm like, Bitterbomb, are you really gonna go to all of this today? He's like, yeah, man, that's just a regular Tuesday. I'm like, wow, okay. You know, but you know, him having a president like that, it really it showed it increased my pride in Cortland, because I'm seeing news around the country about other presidents who, you know, who are not doing anything nearly as close, or not doing anything at all. And it's like, wow, like we really have a president who really shows us every single day that he cares about us and he loves us and he's here for us. Also Noel Chaddick, who was really influential in just, you know, getting me acquainted with people like Bitterbomb and Greg Scherer and Christopher Koretich, and just a lot of, you know, just having her around. She was really that person that kept me in shape, because when I was a sophomore and a freshman, to be honest, I wasn't really necessarily, you know, interested in, you know, doing a lot of the stuff that I was doing, but she really helped me see the importance and why it was important to voice your opinion and to help other students and to be that face. Also Lima, I wasn't gonna say Lima, but why not? And then Maria as well. Just everybody in the MLDO. As everybody may know, I was in the MLD office every single day. Sometimes for food, but mostly just because because I love being there, and they were always there to help me if I had any issue. They always knew how to help me. If anybody that I knew had an issue, I would always direct them to MLDO. If they were facing any racial problems or any problems with discrimination, I knew exactly who to call, and it was most likely them. And they were, you know, very instrumental in just helping me and helping a lot of students. So, you know, thank you both, and Greg and Bitterbomb, who's not in, but and Christopher Koretich and Noel.
Now, I would piggyback off of that. I was kind of like Noel's like little protege. I remember when I was there, I said I was the first multicultural life intern, and then it became a thing. That all started like I was there. Me and Lima had stayed on campus over the summer to like help out with the EOP, and I remember I was like, I just want to be involved. I want to do more. And I remember just going in there, and when Ann was there, the secretary for the office, Ann Cutler, and I was just like, yo, can I do something? I just I want to be involved. And they had me like helping around the office or whatnot. And then they gave me the title of an intern. So that's why it's kind of like funny that it became a thing, because you know what I mean, when I was there, it wasn't nothing. I was just trying to help out, and then it ended up where they pushed me to, you know, help build the first multicultural life office retreat. I was a part of creating the activities and leading that and doing it. So that was a great experience of like giving me a leadership opportunity and meeting people like Greg and going under their mentorship and Mary Kate and working with the office was just amazing for me to get me to where I'm at now, where I'm a business owner and I'm a part of leadership within schools, and it all started there, like literally, and it all came back. I keep saying it, like it all came back from me just being curious and be like, yo, like this ain't completely comfortable for me, but I'm going to try to put myself out there and ask more questions and see how I can, you know, build something from this or get something out of it and learn. So it just came from me going in the summer one time and just like, hey, what can I do? Became an internship that ended up being a thing, and then it got me to be collaborating and building more programming for the office and everything like that. So it was an amazing experience, and that's what I would push kids to do. Just like there's a lot of opportunity to grow and build whatever it is you want to build and create while you're at Cortland, especially with the Multicultural Life Office. They're open to advocating to get you out there and getting your voice heard and pushing you to become something that you never thought you could. So that's what it did for me. So I thank the office for sure, and everybody that was in leadership. I also met Bitterbond while I was in the office, and we collaborated and spoke about how to make programming better for the school as well too. So it was a great experience for me.
I will say the voice office in general. So I will give it my peers, you know, what where they and the administration that was involved with the voice office. And I would just like sleep there. You know, it was just it was real. You know, I would pick that dust. It wasn't nice like it is now. You know, there was a dusty couch. You know, I would back up and sleep on the dusty couch, and it was such a powerful community, and seeing kind of my peers and what they were doing. Because for me, like even though I was involved in all these different things, I was very recluse. You know, I was very much like to myself and very introspective, and did my basketball thing on the side, which took a lot of time. Um, but like that voice office, that community was such a powerful kind of like energy, and I got so much from it, and I wanted to give so much to it. So that would be like the powerful influence that I would say that I received from Cortland, and also like Bitterbomb, the example of Bitterbomb, and really just showing up, you know, walking, you know, not just speaking it, but walking, seeing him in all these different events all the time, you know, and his memory with things as well is so dope. And he was really someone that showed that they cared through their action. So those two things was a were a very powerful example for me. And I'll also say by default, my coach didn't always like him. You know, most of the time didn't like him. But it was like a 4-year relationship, you know, and I learned so much through my trials and fitting in a system that was so different from what I was used to. So those I would say were some powerful influences in my world in Cortland.
There are a few powerful influences for me. I think some of my biggest ones, a lot of this was like a lot of my experience of Cortland was more about like obviously like my professional journey, but a lot of it was like my personal journey and actually, you know, coming to terms with myself and like who I was as an individual. And obviously, you know, that's still an ongoing process. But you know, my teammates, I've joined rugby, and my teammates really, you know, helped me kind of fit into my own skin. along with, my coach, Matt Madden. He's in the phys ed department. And then the entire MLD office. So Lima, Anna Maria, and Dana, especially Dana too. Dana could listen to me complain about anything for hours. But Lima and Anna Maria did, so much for me. Knows Anna Maria and Lima, knows that, the voice office and probably Corey Union along, with Greg would probably crumble and fall, and Mary Kate. Corey Union would not exist. And also James Felton, who was, here before Lorraine. I'm sure Lorraine is absolutely wonderful. I never got the pleasure to work with Lorraine. But during my senior year, James Felton really became a very influential person in, what I was doing on campus and the things that I was getting involved in, and the different initiatives that we brought together, really empowered, me and my time, made, those efforts all the more worthwhile.
I think for me, it was my senior year roommate. My senior year roommate is someone who I'm still really, really close to now. And he was a kid from a really, really poor background who did not do very well in high school and got to Cortland on a hockey scholarship, became an incredible scholar. And he sort of taught me is, you know what, you can change your destiny. You have control. And that's something I learned from him. I felt like in Cortland, I was just sort of floating along, thinking, gee, what should I do now? And I learned from Kenny, just take control, find a goal and go for it, and you can do it. And I think he was so important in my life and still is now.
I would say again also, I would say a role model for me was Juan, and I know he's on this call, but like I remember he was a senior and I came in as a sophomore, and we played on the basketball team together. But I saw how involved he was with the Multicultural Life Office and him being on move and creating and being a part of that movement of creating that new group at the time, and him being super involved with the community and seeing something else and just following him around and seeing like, hey, there's another world outside of the basketball team. With the team on campus, like that's all you around all the time. But Juan kind of like showed me like, no, like that was the first introduction of like there's more than just the basketball team on campus, right? So he took me to meetings and just being a part of that and being willing to like go out of take time out of my schedule to go and see what else was out there. So that was a good experience. So I know I said this to him several times, and we've spoken and we're close, and he's been on my podcast. Juan was definitely a role model for me while I was there.
Gonna make my eyes start sweating, man. Gonna make my eyes start sweating. It's early.
Can we also talk about what Juan said about the couch? I feel like I have so many pictures. Lima has a lot of pictures of me sleeping on that same couch. I know exactly which one you're talking about. So I think that was probably the most influential person, the couch.
Sophomore year, I was definitely in the voice office more than I was in my dorm room.
Yeah.
That was home away from home. I'll let Anna Maria move to number 4 because I know it's time going already.
Yes, we do have 2 more questions left that we want to make sure we get to before we have 12:30, so next 13 minutes. But the next question is, what is something that you learned at Cortland that helped you personally or professionally in your life?
I'll go on this one first. I'll say definitely speaking and being able to lead. So with speaking, I remember like leading some talks in the voice office, and it being so uncomfortable for me that like my jaw was tightening up, my heart was racing, and it got me used to speaking in through truth in front of a lot of people, and leading because of that. But before that, I know people talk about like leading and leading and leading, but before being able to speak and being able to lead, I needed to be able to listen and being able to learn, being able to be a student, right? And it taught me those two things: is like listen, listen to what individuals are feeling, are saying, and what they truly want, and being able to lead. I had to learn. I had to be a student, right? Because I had to look and learn how to become a leader, and putting myself in a position where like you don't just become a leader. You can't. It's not like a boss. Like you're appointed to a position. People have to choose you to be a leader, right? You have to be chosen by the people or the team or the environment to be a leader. So it taught me how to really come into my own with those two things and paying it forward, and how it really affected me and impacted me in my personal relationships and professionally as well, and being able to hold that space to for that growth. So which is just invaluable. That's the biggest takeaways I can get from like my experience there.
And what I would say off of that, similar, is what I learned from Cortland was empathy, right? My first year, a lot of people don't know this, but my first year at Cortland, my father was incarcerated.
I think we lost Carlos.
Yeah, I think, yeah, we definitely lost him.
I think while he's getting himself together, I'll answer. Just to piggyback off what Juan said, public speaking, which is really one of the worst things in the world for me. I was able to learn while I was in Cortland. I think when I was in junior year, BSU had a town hall meeting, and it was in Brown Auditorium, and I just saw crowds of people coming in, and I was, the more people that was coming in, the more my stomach dropped, and the more my stomach sank. I was so nervous, and I remember Noel came up to me and said, "Oh, it's fine. It's only 200 people here. Only 200 people here." Like that would calm me down. Like I think the most people I've ever spoken for was probably like 10 or 20, and just hearing 200 just scared me. And so, but I was able to, calm myself down. I was able to speak. I hope we don't have the recording of that. But I think in the beginning, I was stuttering. I was, really, scared or whatever. And then as it went on, I was able to, really get more comfortable, understand that I had a point, and I, have more confidence in my words, and it projected to the whole crowd. And I think once it was done, Noel came up to me and said, there were 500 people in there, right? I was like, whoa, wait, you said 200. He said, no, it was 500. I know if I told you 500, you probably poop yourself. But yeah, it was 500. And I was like, wow. But, just having that understanding that when you speak and when you, are talking and trying to get a point across, if you don't have confidence in what you're saying, it's going to come across. So when you speak with confidence and you know what you need to say, and you know what you have to get across, then everybody's going to know, because you're going to speak with such conviction and with such force that you don't need to worry. They're here to listen to me. And I think that was probably my biggest the biggest thing that I gained from Cortland, just learning to speak professionally.
That's really funny because I didn't actually think about all of the different times that like I had to publicly speak at Cortland, and how that like has shaped how, especially like I'm a teacher in my classroom, how it shapes how I've even worked in my own classroom, speaking to crowds of almost 300 students, faculty, staff, alumni. I never realized that experience and how much that gave to me. That's really interesting that both of you brought it up, because it's not something I actually even thought about when thinking about back in my time is how often I had to speak in front of large groups of people and like different administrators and things like that, you know, obviously are kind of scary, you know, as a young college student. I think for me though, something that helped me the most, I think, was learning to just live as my authentic self and not like putting up a front for anyone. Obviously, you know, there's times where you have to, you know, do those things like, you know, workplace and things like that, but you know, not putting up that front for anyone and not trying to be anyone else or emulate anyone else, and just trying to, you know, be myself and discover who I was and, you know, my opinions, and not what I thought I should, you know, think about, but what I actually wanted to do. And I think that's what I took away most from Cortland, was the ability to, you know, believe in myself and be my like true authentic self.
For time's sake, real quick, I do want to add the last question in there, and if you want to still share on the previous question, that's fine. But I really want to get your ideas on how we can cultivate more inclusive communities, whether that be at Cortland or in our world in general. If any of you want to share on that.
I think the first step, always the root, is going to be the person, right? So cultivating more inclusive communities, it's like turning the pain into compassion and understanding our emotions and triggers, right? Because there's so much pain on either side and both sides of the spectrum everywhere. We all carry, you know, traumas, challenges, and then we put it on a social level. It compounds and enhances, right? So being able to show up kind of powerfully vulnerable and having strategies or systems that's based off of that, and getting really clear on, you know, what are we here for? What are our principles? You know, what do we stand for? And having the system really emulate that, and the people that are in that system or that environment to be aligned with the T, right? So if I'm compassionate, am I just compassionate if someone agrees with me? You know, am I just understanding or inviting if someone's view is exactly what my view is? Or can I hold that space and, you know, have that and invite conversation or connection when your view is completely different from my view? And I like to say my principles don't change because of the circumstances. And so it's really getting clear on that and coming to the table through healing, right? So when we talk about a healthy community, and I love to break this down, whether it's like healthy mind, healthy body, healthy community, is really, when we break it down, the first step into that is healing, right? It's heal thy community, heal thy mind, heal thy body, right? So that first step is like, we have to do that healing, that deeper healing within ourselves, because we're always going to kind of put that energy in that we have, right? So if we're trying to create an inclusive community or inclusive conversations, but yet if things go awry, we get triggered and we fall back to our default kind of defensiveness, then that's never really going to work. Because defensive, when we put people in a defensive way, in a defensive position, the shields are up, the guards are up, and we can never connect if the guards are up. So for me, it's really getting down to the root and being, what are we about? What's it about? And joining that inclusivity, no matter how difficult that conversation is, because healing is messy. If we want to get to where we want to get to, that healing aspect of it is going to be messy before it gets better. And we have to be willing to sit in that mess with one another and connect.
I think something else that, you know, would really, maybe not only just at Cortland, but everywhere else as well, is I feel like humans have like this natural instinct to be empathetic. And I know, at least me personally, I learned pretty much everything I've learned about diversity, equity, and inclusion based on other people's experiences. Obviously, there's statistics and there's governmental policies and all of these, you know, different things that obviously align with it. But for me, I feel like, especially, you know, with other people, the way that we're going to connect the most and build those communities is through being like empathetic and through discussions and just talking to people and getting to know them. See, for me, my experiences growing up were so sheltered because I didn't have those discussions. I didn't have those shared experiences or even different experiences. I didn't have that at all. So when I learned about them through other people, talked to other people, listened to other people, that's where everything started changing for me and lining up. So I feel that to build more inclusive communities, we kind of just need to listen to each other, learn about where we're all coming from, and honestly realize that there are more similarities between us than differences. And I think that's where, we fail as a society, is just not the lack of empathy and the lack of just understanding of each other. And I think that's where we could really build those more inclusive communities.
I think doing what Cortland actually is doing now by making diversity a priority, really working at it and saying, this is really, really, really important. We're going to talk about it. And that is really, really wonderful, because it's so easy to say, gee, we've done that. No need to keep doing that. And I think it really makes me feel great that all these years coming back to Cortland, that they've made diversity a priority.
And I know I dropped off earlier. I apologize about that. Yeah, I lost Wi-Fi for a little bit, but I'm back on. But yeah, I would say it is growing. The conversations are being had. I would say continue to just what the school can do is not be afraid of confrontation. You know what I mean? Confrontation and conflict are two different things, and people are afraid of confronting things and having these conversations. And I think, confrontation is good, and normalizing that. We don't have to agree, but we can hear each other out, right? And no matter your stance, we can have this conversation, and then we'll learn something from it, right? And we'll begin to understand each other better. But I think this whole of I don't want to offend anybody, I don't want to hurt anybody. We need to come from our own experiences and voice how we feel, and then let people confront us and allow us to learn from that confrontation. And I'll tell you right now, like, I may not be the sharpest tool in the toolbox, but I've been able to surround myself around truth tellers, right? From everybody around me tells me when I look bad or when I sound a certain way, and that's strategically done through my life, right? Even when I was in school, Lima was a big person to tell me when I look stupid, right, in public, or when I sound a certain way. And then I've learned to value that. And everybody, to my wife now, to the friends that I keep close, are the truth tellers. And the confrontation is valuable because we learn from it. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? I think it's getting over that fear and that misconception of confrontation being conflict. That's two different things.
Thank you, Carlos. I know because of time's sake, I love the conversation that's going. I want to continue, but I know a few people have other things to go to. We really appreciate the panelists. I'm going to invite Lorraine now to do the closing, but thank you all so much. Go ahead, Lorraine.
Gosh, I have to close it and we're over time. This was an amazing, amazing session. I want to thank Lima and Anna Maria for facilitating it, and Shawna for, and Erin for organizing it. And I also want to thank each one of the panelists. I mean, your experiences and you sharing it just, just confirms what you all just said, right? It's about listening. It's about, not fearing conflict and engaging in these conversations. And I think it was Juan that said it, it gets messy. I mean, sometimes it gets messy, but that's okay. So you all spoke my mind, you mentioned all those things, and I'm thinking like, wow, they, right on target. So it was a pleasure meeting you all. Thank you. And have a wonderful day, each one of you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you so much for having us. Appreciate you.
It was wonderful. Thank you.
It was wonderful. Thank you, everybody. So good to see everybody.
Oh, this was great to be with you guys.
Rocky, I see you in the background. Joining us.
I see you too, girl.
Thank you for doing this. This was really great.
Yes, Seth.
Thank you for joining us, Seth.
Thank you for
And
joining.
thank you for your
Seth,
comments,
I
Seth.
just Seth, I did want to let you know, because this is something we haven't 100% disclosed yet, like publicly, but we will be inviting alumni to it. We're going to have our first annual rainbow reception.
Okay.
Portland.
Okay.
Yeah. So we will have more information coming.
Okay. All
And
right.
things are getting better, like Anna Maria said. I mean, we're never going to get to a place that we say we've arrived, and we're you know, never. I mean, there's always work to do, but we are at a better place when it comes to LGBT community and race. You know, we are in a better place thanks to people.
I think having the president you have is, boy, Cortland is so lucky to have one of the best college presidents in the country.
Mike Salon, because Mike mentions him as an influential person, and I right away sent him an email and told him, I said, you just got voted as most influential by the alumni.
And Shauna mentioned that the recording will be on the virtual community page on reddragon.org. So you'll all have access to this.
Very great. Yeah, this was wonderful. Shauna, Anna Maria, Lima, this was great.
It was. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah. All right. Take care, everyone. Have a good day.
Bye.
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 Oh.